Hey, shalom to the Akim out there. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shah Ba'Shem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, elders of great millstones. Salute to the sincere Akim out there of the hope for the elect. All right. Hey, as you can see, the U.S. of America, Babylon the Great, according to the Bible, they're getting their ass kicked out there in the Middle East, you know, in the Gulf State region of the world, which is the Armageddon, according to the Holy Bible. All right. They out there getting served, man. Despite what the mainstream media is saying, you know, all these major news networks out here in America, you know, your CNNs, Fox 5s, ABC, CBS, and all of that, you know. But America's getting fucked up out there, man. The military bases is getting destroyed all over the Gulf states. And you know, in Iran is not having it. They don't want to do no negotiations, no peace talks. You know, they got Russia and China backing them up with some with the most advanced weaponry when it comes to missiles, man. You know, that's breaking through America's missiles defense systems and destroying all their bases. All right. And you know, President Trump, he can grace the airwaves with his proud presence, talking about how they, you know, basically destroyed Iran's army and their Navy fleet, you know, and their Air Force bases and all of this, that, and the third. And we all, I mean, hopefully you go pretty much see it got to be bullshit, because if that was the case, then the war should be over. You know, what the hell are we threatening to put troops on the ground for? All right. And why every week, fuck every week, why every other day, America keeps threatening them with massive strikes that's supposed to be, you know, more deadlier than the day before. Okay. You know, you can't believe the hype of what the president is saying and what his, you know, his generals and secretaries of defense and all of that is saying, man. Okay. You know, I mean, because it's common sense. If you took out their fucking, you know, all of their infrastructure regarding, you know, their war vehicles, missiles, this, that, and the third, and bases, all right, then the war should be done. It should be over, and the Strait of Hormuz should be open, all right. But, you know, Iran is definitely fighting back, and they're being helped. They're definitely being helped by Russia and China. You know, they're able to target the United States bases with pinpoint accuracy, you know, and blowing shit up. And it's to the point where, you know, you have a lot of soldiers that are dying, you know, plenty that's not being reported in the mainstream media. I believe they said it's just 3, all right. But you know, if it's 3, you can definitely certainly add another 10 to that, you know, that they're not talking about. And you know, this is all biblical prophecy, man. This is all prophecy. This is all the end of a dynasty, all right? So first scripture I'm gonna bring out, this is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 12. We always bring this scripture out, all right? It says, matter of fact, I'll start at verse 9. It reads, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men. All right. The Gentiles in this case is talking about the other nations. The Lord said, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Right. So the Lord is telling all of the other nations to be prepared to go to war. Okay. Be prepared to go to war. You know, and all these other nations, they're preparing themselves for war. That's why they're joining. That's why they're joining or trying to join the BRIC nations, okay? They're trying to ally themselves with Russia and China, you know? And this is not only with a lot of these Arab countries in the Middle East, but, you know, a lot of the African countries, you know, the nation of Ham, these little different countries in Africa, they're also aligning themselves with China and Russia. So they're prepping themselves for war, okay? All right? It says, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Okay? So the Lord is waking up the mighty men. All these different countries that have, you know, they have a standing army. All right? And, you know, they're gathering their troops, doing deals with Russia and China, you know, for weapons and such. And at the same time, trading some of their natural resource with them. All right? You know? So the mighty men are waking up, and they're drawing near, and they're getting ready for war. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Okay, what are plowshares and pruning hooks are tools of agriculture. Okay, so the Lord said, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, meaning you take all your GDP from your agriculture and you invest in your military. All right, and who has the top top of the line missiles in the world? Russia and China. It's super advanced when it comes to this technology when it concerning weapons of war, weapons of mass destruction as well. Right? Top of the line satellites, that can break through America's missile defense system. Okay? So the other nations are getting down with it, man. And that's why you see Iran, like I said, they're blowing up all of the U.S. bases, man, in the Middle East. Them oil tankers that are trying to get through the Strait of Hormuz, you got Iran blowing them shits up too, man. You see America's, one of their main weapons of war is financial. Okay? When they put sanctions on these other countries, to try to stop the flow of money in these countries and cripple their economy. Iran, they finally seeing that they have an advantage, that they can basically blow up these oil tankers, and that's going to wind up crippling or hurting the economy of America. All right? So it's going down, man, But it reads on to say, assemble yourselves and come, O ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. All right? And the nations are all being gathered in that red hot zone on the planet Earth, which is the Middle East. Okay? The Gulf states, ever since the welfare state of Israel was set up in 1948, that place has been a goddamn hot zone, man. A hotbed for war. Them Arabs been trying to expel them fucking rats from out of that region of the world ever since they got there, man, and started occupying that land. Even though that land, the land of Israel, doesn't belong to the Arabs neither. All right? And that's why the Lord got all of this controversy being stirred up, all of this war and what have you going on out there in the Middle East, so he can blow up both parties, man. All right? And set the land for his anointed. Okay? And who is the Lord's anointed? The nation of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, North American Indians. So the Lord is doing all of this, for his name's sake, first and foremost. But, we're going to be joint heirs with the only begotten of Yahweh, okay? Which is Yahweh Shai, because that's whose kingdom is set to come. All right? So the Lord is doing all of this really for our benefit, our favor. It reads on to say, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. All right? And Jehoshaphat in the Hebrew, Yahweh Shaphat, meaning Yahweh's judgment. All right? That's where the Lord is going to judge all of the nations, all of the different armies that are gathered about to go to war. Okay? Like I said, the Lord got all these other nations in a trick bag. Okay? It reads on to say, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. That's right. So the Most High is tired of all of the fucking sins and all of the wickedness and all of the chaos and all of the mischief and all of the violence that's taking place in this world, man. So he's ready to put an end to this fucking madness, man, and restore some real order, okay? Which is his laws and statutes and commandments being instituted, all right, throughout the whole world, okay? Through his only begotten son, Yahweh Shah, and his elect of the nation of Israel. All right? It says, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Okay? So these are the times that we're approaching, man. These are we actually here. We're really here at the forefront of all of this, man. From this war intensifying and heating up, and there's really no way out. for America. They eventually, they're threatening to possible or insinuating, some of the insiders, some of the speculators believe that America might wind up dropping a nuclear missile on Iran, because everything else that they've been doing is not really working. It's not shutting down Iran, it's not having that devastating effect that they wanted it to have, that they intended it to have, to get them to submit. Okay? And open up the Strait of Hormuz, fall in line with the international bankers so that they can, basically rape them for their fucking resources, man. But they ain't going for it. Iran is not going for it. And it's the Lord that's putting the spirit on these other nations, man. And that's making, that got the other nations seeing the weakness of America. The big bad bully. Somebody's actually stepping up to him, man. So that's the Lord doing all of that. All right? It says the sun and the moon shall be darkened and the stars shall withdraw their shining. So there's people going to be in a state of great confusion, man. The sun and the moon represents knowledge and wisdom, and if the sun and the moon is dark, then that means these people lack knowledge and wisdom. So they're in a state of confusion. You look at the generals of war in the United States military, also President Trump, the president of the United States, right? Who's what do they call him? The chief? What's the title for the president? He's the I forget the term that they use. Commander in chief. Okay? And he don't know what the fuck he's doing, man. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He was trying to get Bibi Netanyahu and Israel to chill the fuck out. But they ain't listening to America. They got America bought lock, stock, and barrel. Okay? America has to do what they tell them to do. Because them fucking dirty, filthy rats, they line up the pockets of them goddamn politicians. So Trump and the politicians and former presidents, okay, they're all in debt, or they owe the Israeli bankers, who fund their political campaigns and set them up in office. All right? So they got to do whatever them fucking Zionist rats tell them to do. But this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 25. It says, behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord, which destroyeth all the earth. All right? So the Lord said he's against that destroying mountain. Mountain represents government. All right? And there's a mountain that destroys all of the world, man. The top government in the world, which is the United States of America, is destroying the world because of its philosophies. It's pushing out lies, so much propaganda, they distorted history, they teach all of their science, which is all fallacies and bullshit, to defy the Most High, the Creator, okay? And they teach everything contrary to the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, which is the law of the Bible, So they're destroying the earth with their wicked philosophies, man. It says, behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord, which destroyeth all the earth. And not only are they destroying the earth with their philosophies, but also, with physically polluting the planet, dumping sewage and waste all in the fucking rivers, lakes, and oceans throughout the world, contaminating the fucking the waters that we need to drink. We catch fish and eat fish, right? They're contaminating and polluting the fucking land. They test nuclear missiles in the soil, underground nowadays, man. They don't even do it above surface no more. So the whole fucking land is poisoned, man. With radiation and all kind of other fucking deadly diseases. Every other month is a damn outbreak of some new disease that we never even heard about, man. So this man is destroying the whole fucking world, man. He's destroying the whole world. So the Lord said, behold, I am against thee. So the Lord is against America, O destroying mountain. That destroying mountain or government is America, saith the Lord, which destroyeth all the earth. And that's what America is doing. It's destroying the whole goddamn world, man. It says, and I will stretch out mine hand upon thee and roll thee down from the rocks and will make thee a burnt mountain. Okay? So the Lord is going to burn this bitch up. America's going to be burned. It's going to be nuked. All right? And that's why you got this war in Iran that you can't get out of. You know, the Iranians is also threatening Ukraine right now. All right? Threatening to, shoot missiles at Ukraine and shit. You know, because they're backed by Russia. So you can see the relationship between Iran and Russia is tight. It's a tight relationship, a tight-knit relationship, man. You know? So this war is just getting worse and worse and worse, man, to the day that America's going to finally be destroyed, you know? So, I just wanted to share that information with you people out there. You know, somebody happens to stumble upon this video for the first time to hear some true prophecy, you know, not them fucking lies that you're hearing on the news, okay? This is all according to the scriptures. I'm proving out of the Holy Bible that America's destiny is to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. And that's why this war is being fought, and that's why this war is escalating, and it will never simmer down, okay? Because this is all according to prophecy, all right? So I'm going to say Shalom, Wabarakim to the hopeful elect. Abaratazah, see you in the next one. Shalom.